Coach, sorry we're running a little bit late, but appreciate you joining us.
Oh, man, I appreciate you having me. I think I know the answer to that question, but I'll keep it to myself.
Yeah, hold off for now. We don't want to give it away to too many people. But, interesting album, to say the least. But, I love playing music trivia. We do it every Wednesday. Hey, man, I want to ask you because obviously now to be a high school coach and have a Heisman Trophy winner that you coached is quite an accomplishment, and I know you're proud of that. But going back to when Derrick was younger, clearly he has physical gifts and tools that not many people walking the planet have. But I know he started playing varsity football, I think, as a ninth grader. When did you know and say to yourself, I mean, this guy really is different and has a chance to truly be special?
Well, we knew coming in he was really good. It's really tough to say. I had never really had a player that had made a jump from high school, or, I'd only been a head coach for 2 years, but I mean, other places I've been, I'd never really been around a player who'd come in as a ninth grader and been as good as he was. So going into it, you're very, you're still apprehensive, maturity wise, how's he going to handle things? Is he going to be able to handle the regimen of high school as opposed to eighth grade? The step up in competition, all those things. It's just a completely different game. And it was real early on in practice that August that we made a decision quick that, he was going to be the guy we were going to focus on offensively. And, he had a decent game in our kickoff classic, which is our preseason game down here. And, we hadn't been very good on offense my first year, so we were just happy that we had a running back who we thought was good. And by the second or third game of the year, you realize, okay, this guy's not just good; he's something different. And when you tack on the fact that he was just never really a ninth grader, he never acted like a ninth grader. I mean, he never did anything to remind you that he was a freshman. I mean, he was the best player on the field after that. And, he was the guy that we were going to go to, and we trusted him completely.
We're visiting with Bobby Ramsey, head football coach of the Yulee Hornets, Coach Derrick Henry in high school. Henry, of course, won the Heisman Trophy this past Saturday night in New York City. I'm curious, Coach, because I played high school football, and I know coming up through youth football and so forth, your biggest, most talented athletes usually are at skill positions. But sometimes by the time you get to the high school level, you've got a guy that's 6'3", well over 200 pounds. Even if he is effective as a running back, I'm not. Some coaches might be tempted to think, well, I'm gonna play him somewhere else, or it might help his college chances if I play him somewhere else. Were you ever tempted to move him away from the running back position?
No, he was too good. We played him a little bit at the defensive end when we had to have him, but the only thing we ever considered doing with him. And this was more just, a pipe dream on my end, because we did some Wildcat stuff with him. I always kind of, had this, sort of fantasy of him, learning how to throw and being a quarterback, dual threat quarterback. But he was going to have football in his hands. It was never a question of him touching the ball. It was just, man, if this guy could throw, because he got a really strong arm. It's like, man, can you imagine him as a quarterback? So. But never imagined moving him away from where he was going to touch football.
When Alabama started recruiting him, of course, a lot of fans in this area, because you know how Alabama fans are, they started seeing his numbers, watching clips of him, of course, when he played Kelvin Taylor's team on national television, and just lit it up. Bama fans got excited. I think he might have committed to Alabama that particular morning before that game. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but then he goes out and just torches it. You hear this all the time in high school. He was a man, amongst boys, but really at the high school level, Derrick Henry was.
Yeah, he was the best player on the field in every game he ever played, and we had to play some teams. We were in a pretty small district numerically, so we had to play 8 non-district games his junior and senior year, and that meant we had to kind of play teams that were essentially out of our league, because teams in our own sort of area classification wise a lot of people didn't want to play it. So we had to go play schools that were, 7A schools or schools that were private schools that we could have two Derricks. It didn't matter. And he was always the best player on the field. And you talk about Alabama fans. I can remember going to away games. Like we played in Orlando his senior year, near Orlando. And this was before he had committed, but the school, it was in the lead form at the time, and there were people coming there to watch the game who, just to see him, and who were Alabama fans. So it was pretty crazy.
Now, you were never tempted to move him away from the running back position, and you knew he wanted to be a running back. He told every college recruiter that came by he wanted to be a running back, yet still there were numerous schools, big schools, that didn't see him as a running back, recruited him at another position. I guess you could say, well, at least they were honest with him. But at the same time, they ruled themselves out. They never gave themselves a chance. Were you surprised that so many coaches continued to recruit him maybe as a rush-in or a linebacker or an H-back or a tight end, knowing that he wanted to play running back and, in essence, just ruling themselves out of the Derrick Henry sweepstakes? Did that surprise you when he was being recruited?
It didn't surprise me as much that they liked him as a defensive end or an outside linebacker as much as it surprised me that they didn't think he could play running back, if that makes any sense. Like, I was more, I see what they see. I'm like, not that I'm the decision maker, but I know what they're seeing a tall, long kid that, can cover space, and, there's a premium at getting to the quarterback, and defensive ends are hard to find. I understand all that. But at the same time, it's hard. It was one of those things where, you kind of just wanted to say to some people, don't overthink this thing. Don't everybody. Sometimes, and I talked about it with another guy in an interview, it's kind of I equate it to just kind of lazy scouting. You know what I'm saying? People, they just want to they want to see a body type and immediately stereotype it or generalize it as something, and that's what it's going to be. So, okay, he's 6'3", this weight, so he's a defensive end, bang, he's got long arms, whatever. Instead of really, just kind of taking it at face value as far as his play is concerned, and just look at all the yards, man. Don't overthink this thing too much. Just look at what he's doing, and I would probably, and I'm not the decision maker by any means, but I would probably caution an NFL team to do the same thing.
There were some criticisms of Derrick Henry. Played at a small school, as you said, running over, 175-pound linebackers. Even when he got to Alabama, I heard it. And I thought he ran a little straight up, to be honest with you, Coach, but runs straight up, doesn't hit the hole as hard as he needs to, can run in space, but can't get you 2 yards when you need it on 3rd and 2. Of course, he's overcame all of that criticism. But the one thing I guess that's been remarkable to me, and I know he never got caught from behind in high school, but I've gone back. I've watched him for 3 years. We know he's got the long legs and takes big strides, but the speed is so undervalued. You saw it this year in the Mississippi State game. We saw it against LSU. Nobody catches this guy from behind, Coach. I'm talking corners, safeties. When he gets in the open field, he is gone. The football speed is amazing. Did you notice that when you coached him in high school, that this guy can, I don't know what his 40 time is without pads, but when he's in pads, he can fly?
We always knew he was fast. that was the thing about it that always kind of made me chuckle in the recruiting process, is people sort of had this stereotype of him as this kid that just trucks over people, and, everybody holds on for dear life, and he gets 7 yards in a cloud of dust and gets back and goes and does it again. That's not, Derrick will do that, but that's really not the kind of runner he is or the kind of runner he wants to be. Trust me, I guarantee he was really frustrated during the Florida game that he never broke a long one. He wants to get out in open field and run. He's a thoroughbred. He ran out to Oregon when he was in high school and ran a 4.37 laser time. So the dude can run, and trust me, if he can bust this, he'd much rather have a 60-yard touchdown run than 10 6-yard runs, if that makes sense. He wants to use his speed. He wants to be able to get out in the open field, and his speed was always very undervalued. And the upright running style. He's 6'3". He's not going to look like Emmitt Smith.
That's right. You got to be upright when you're 6'3" a little bit.
Yeah, it's like he's just not going to look like a smaller back, and so the whole run tie thing was kind of like, well, he's going to look a little different. It's not really about getting him to, you don't want him bending over too much. You want him to be able to be in a position where he can accelerate. So, but his speed was like, kind of like you said, is always very undervalued.
Bobby Ramsey, the head coach at Yulee High School, the Hornets, Coach Derrick Henry in high school. He wound up going to Alabama, but he was headed to Georgia. And I know the Tide hung in there and continued to recruit him as a running back. What kind of turned the tide, pardon the pun, to get him away from the Georgia Bulldogs and ultimately signing with Alabama?
It was never anything. All the schools that recruited him, and all the schools that recruit these guys, it's like, I would tell any of them, you really can't make a bad choice. I mean, they're all really great programs. It was nothing that Georgia didn't do. I think it was, first of all, the strength of Alabama's program. I mean, I equated to like, a middle school dance, and there's a bunch of boys who are afraid to ask the prettiest girl there to dance, and then all of a sudden, like the one kind of stud moves in and parks him out of the way and goes and takes her to dance. It was Alabama was kind of like, that one who came in and just kind of stood out amongst the rest of them because of what they were doing as far as winning, obviously, and, furthermore, what they've done to develop running backs. And, their approach is, I would tell anybody, it's a little different in the sense that they're not going to come in and chest bump a kid and promise him the world and try to be his best friend. They kind of tell you that up front. They tell you, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is our track record, this is what we feel like you can do, and this is what we feel like you can do for us. And if you do those things, here's going to be the result because we've proven that. And, I think, when he committed to Georgia, he had really never been a whole lot of places. He was up at their dog night. I think he'd been there for like 20 minutes, and seen the football field.
He caught the fever a little bit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He got caught up. He got caught up in the moment. He's 16 years old, and knowing Derrick, and when he gets excited and wants to do something, he's going to do it. And so it was less about trying to talk him out of it as much as it was like, well, let's, if this is what you want to do, that's fine, but let's make sure that you understand that you still have some options. So, Jeremy Pruitt did a hell of a job recruiting him. Coach Burns came in there and helped, and obviously Saban closed it, and he was always very upfront, very direct. Their presentation is very impressive because of his not only knowledge of the college game, but his understanding of what happens, past college, and explaining the NFL and the possibilities there, but also being realistic with Derrick at the same time. And it's hard to. I mean, right now, if Alabama's recruiting you, and it's hard to say no. I mean, it's tough to say no to that. What they're doing is
it's working.
Oh yeah. And I'm not trying to sound like an Alabama, commercial or something, but just from my experience with it, it's hard to. It's hard to say no to it. I don't really know how you do it.
Well, Coach, we're getting short on time, but a couple more things. I know his freshman season, 27 carries during the 12 regular season games. He came back to Yulee, and of course, as we're saying, you got to be patient at Alabama. There's so many good players, but he thought about leaving and coming back home and transferring somewhere else. What did you tell him?
No, basically. That fall, I just kind of went back to my own experiences. I played at a small college, but I was the only person, I guess, around him who kind of had a point of reference of what that process is like, and just tried to, instead of telling him, what he didn't want to hear, I more just listened and reminded him that, they brought you there for a reason. When I would talk to the coaches about him and just check on him, see how he was doing, it was odd to me that he was so upset or so frustrated because, I understood the frustration a little bit, but just the fact that you got such, rave reviews from the coaches about him, and Coach Burns had nothing but great things to say about him, and, it was just, telling him, look, the grass isn't greener on the other side of the hill, man. Sometimes that's just where the septic tank's at, and, your opportunity's going to come, and it's coming. And at the same time, said, hey, if you have these feelings, you need to speak to Coach Saban about it. Of course, that's easier to tell someone to do that than have to actually go do it. I was like, oh man. I mean, I understand that. I was like, as I'm telling him, I'm like, man, I in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh gosh, this is going to be a tough one for him. But he needed to be his own advocate, and he needed to talk to the coaches and let them know how he felt. And I said, his job is to listen to you. That's what his job is to do, and he will. And let them know what you're thinking. And then fortunately, the Sugar Bowl experience happened, and I guess the rest is history.
Yeah, it's off and running. All-time leading high school rusher, all-time single-season SEC rushing leader, Heisman Trophy winner. We only got 30 seconds, Coach, but real quickly, tell me, when he stood up there at that podium on Saturday night and he's thanking everybody that he could remember that had anything to do with his success, all the way back to being a child, all the folks there in Yulee, his family, you, just what was that moment like for you and the folks in Yulee when he was standing there and making that announcement and recognizing all those folks back in Florida?
Oh, I mean, it was instant relief when his name was called, because you were so nervous that, what if he doesn't win it? I'd be so upset for him, and I didn't have a consoling speech ready to go. And, followed by just instant joy and happiness for him. Obviously really proud. And, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a thrill when he did, mention me. It's certainly, guy asked me, did you ever think in your wildest dreams that you could coach a Heisman Trophy winner? I said, I didn't have any dreams about the Heisman Trophy. It was something that I never thought I'd get within any reach of. So, just to be associated with it at all and to play any part, and especially somebody like Derrick who just does everything the right way was great fun.
Well, thank you, Coach. I could go on and on, but you got responsibilities, and we got to move on. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me.